Okay, let's move on then. Fans Pulse Lap 2. You have voted, we have listened. We're going to have another club spotlight. We've done one a couple of weeks back on the Bellevue Aces. We're dipping into the championship for the first time on 360 Speedway. And we're going to have a focus on the Workington Comets, a famous club side stretched back to the 70s. I think they were born in 1970. They had to leave their spiritual home, of course, at Derwent Park at the end of what was an all-conquering 2018 season. So the season was filled with euphoria in terms of the on-track achievements of the Comets, and then afterwards, sadly, the demise of Derwent Park. But very pleased, highly pleased to see the Comets have now resurfaced at the GT Tyres Arena at Northside, which was a former training track venue. And I've got to say, Steve Lawson and Andrew Bain, two of the promoters there, have done an incredible job. Lots of hard work, clearly lots of investment, and they have created a super impressive speedway venue, which I think, gentlemen, is very much the model, alongside your red cars and your Scunthorpe, very much the model, I think, for modern day speedway clubs. Workington Comets, Nigel, I'm going to come to you first once again. You must have encountered and raced against the Comets many times over the years.
Hey, you know, Derek, not that much really, not that much, but I do remember when I was just turned 16, my first ever meeting was at Derwent Park. But no, not a lot really. It was shut down sort of majority of my time. But as you say, in the new one at Workington, that must be the success story of the, I don't know, whatever you like, years. You know, it's such a fantastic place, everybody. The track, such a fantastic racetrack, by what I hear and told. And they've done a great job, haven't they? Steve Lawson, Andrew Baines, as you say. What a terrific job they've done. They're not maybe having, I think this year they might struggle a little bit team-wise, but I think they've got a lot of young kids in, and if they can persevere with them young lads, I'm sure next year, with 1 year's experience, keep that lot together and Workington will see some success. They certainly deserve it, don't they? I mean, the track is just unbelievable, like, isn't it? As you said, Derek, you're quite right in what you said. It suits the modern day bike, doesn't it?
I think so.
Bellevue, red car, it suits the modern day bike. Some of the older tracks, it's been going years. And I don't know, Rob will tell you better than me. He's rode the laydowns a lot more. I don't know whether some of them quite suit some of these little tight, narrow tracks, you know, but certainly your big ones, your Bellevues, Redcar, Scunthorpe, Workington, ideal for it, aren't they?
Robbo, what's your memories of racing at Workington? I'm not sure, did you ever manage to get on the new circuit, Stuart, or did that pass you by?
I haven't been to the new one yet, no. Heard nothing but great comments on that and good reports. But yeah, I actually will go up to that one day and have a look. It sounds great. The old Derwent Park, I used to love going there. It's a lovely part of the world, isn't it? In general, you know, going up through the Lake District there, and you know, I used to always stay back for a drink there because the fans there were always great. I used to go in the bar afterwards. They'd buy me a pint. Brilliant. We'd be sitting chatting for hours. I'd be the last one at the bar sometimes, just sitting chatting to everyone. And I had a long drive home as well. If I was going back to Coventry, it was a 4.5 hour trip, or 4 to 4.5 hour trip. Sometimes if I was going back to Sunderland, it wasn't too bad. If I was going to my parents, or every now and again, I'd stay over there and head up to Glasgow the next day or wherever.
Yeah, I was going to say that the Comets fans, I think they have got a reputation. They've been pretty friendly. Stewart McDonald, what about your own memories of Derwent Park?
Well, I rode there 25, 26 years ago. I think one of my meetings with Edinburgh One-Ups. To be fair, I actually scored 13. I loved the track. It was a great track to race on. Always very flat. And the third and fourth bend was like a banking, so you could always run up and then get a great big straight into the first second. So I used to love racing there. What I don't miss was the cold and the winds, because honestly, it would cut you in half at Workington. But one of the big memories that I think a few of the guys will share is, I think was when we used to go for a pint after the race, and we used to go to, I think it was the Waverley Hotel. I don't know, is that right, Robbo?
It is the Waverley, yes.
Yeah, so I'm sure with Robbo's reaction there, he's in the same frame of mind. There was some wild nights in the Waverley. But what I will say about the Workington people is that they welcomed you with open arms. And they always wanted to buy you a drink, which for a Scot's been great. And they were just wanting to talk, chat, Speedway, fans, have a laugh. And it was always a great place to go to. Let's see, I don't think I went there and came home on the same night. I think we always ended up staying either in the car park in the back of somebody's van, or in the pub, or I think Rob will agree here, or in the bar in the Waverley, because when the rooms were full, the owners were Speedway fans, so they used to let us all sleep on the seats with the tables. A couple of riders I'm not even going to mention used to use the pool table to sleep on. So all I can say is that I'm glad there was not iPhones back then.
Was it a 6-foot or 8-foot pool table?
Well, bearing in mind that most of the speed riders, the majority of them were quite short, but no, I'm not going to mention any names. One was American.
Okay.
One was from Manchester.
Well, yeah. So we'll leave it at that. I'm sure we can have an off-air chat about some fun times.
Do you know, when I think about Derwent Park, you know, as a supporter, obviously, well, listen, we spent a season in Glasgow. As a reminder to people, Glasgow had no home track in 1987, and Workington had no speedway team. So Glasgow decamped to Derwent Park for a season, or the best part of a season. And every Friday night, I was a young buck at the time, jumped on a supporters bus with my new girlfriend, who's now my wife, who hates Speedway, and we used to go to Derwent Park every Friday night for a romantic night at the Speedway. But when you got there, Derwent Park had that sort of sense of, you felt that you were somewhere special. You know, it was a proper pucka stadium feel to it, and the track, Stuart McDonald, to your point, the track looked enormous. The first and second bend looked so expansive in terms of the physical space that you had.
Do you know what, Derek? It was always smooth. I don't think I ever rode it when it was rough or bumpy. It was always smooth, and you just went in flat out and kept it on, and the bike ran. And it was just, I loved the track. I always did. Quite a narrow first bend from the start. But once you got going, you know, I remember watching a few, I think it was a pairs meeting that was there. And I remember watching Gary Stead, who used to just go right up the bank. And I think Blind Cunningham was another one. But a great track to race on. And just when you mentioned 87, Derek, my father took myself, my brothers and my mother every Friday to Workington from Glasgow. Every Friday.
Yeah.
We never missed a match.
Yeah. I'm going to say happy memories. You know, at the end of that campaign, Glasgow's results were expunged. That was the first time I'd ever come across the word expunged, and I've never forgotten it, in 1987.
When it was at Workington, when Glasgow rode there, it shut down the week before. Stoke should have gone there. They should have gone there on whatever day they rode, and it shut down. The last meeting was the week before, shut down, so I never got to go. Maybe it's good because I can tell you a little story here. I went there once with Newcastle, and you know, the supporters are all very nice and everything. We had to have a police escort away.
Did you?
Seriously.
Did you upset someone, Nigel?
Sorry?
Did you upset someone?
It wouldn't be me. I'd just be tootling round at the back in them days. But like Ian Thomas was very good, wasn't he? You know, making something out of nothing, and it all got out of hand, and the police had to escort us all out of the stadium.
Happy days.
Yeah, but people talk about that, don't they? That's the problem nowadays. There's nothing to talk about.
Exactly. It's a bit more sterile these days, isn't it, Speedway? But you mentioned Ian Thomas, you know, and I remember back in the day, I remember having a few conversations with Ian, and I was quite in awe of him because of his pedigree and his history in the sport. He was
made
literally a
something out of
magician, right?
nothing. He could make something out of nothing, and it all added to the night.
I remember, I can't remember, Stewart McDonald, you mentioned a peers meeting. I think it was a peers meeting, and Mick Powell and Cal Stonehure, I think, were the Workington pair, and they entered the stadium aboard an elephant. An elephant walked around the track with those two on board it, yeah. You're just thinking about, Comets fans, if you're out there, it'd be really interesting and appreciated if you could take some time and share some of your comments, some of your memories about the club, past or present. Listen, how do you pick out some iconic riders from such a long history? But Taffy Owen, no longer with us. I had the great pleasure of spending an afternoon in Taffy's company at Owlerton a few years ago, and he was a gentleman and very, very funny with it. Carol Stonehure we've mentioned, who's a character, of course. Craig Cook, born and bred in that part of the world and plied his trade with the Comets. Lou Sansom, going back in the day, Crabby, and Simon Stead, a very young Simon Stead, developed his career around the big pacey Derwent Park. Hopefully good times ahead, Nigel, to your point. The Comets exceeded all expectations last year. They made the playoffs to Glasgow's cost last year. They haven't started the season just as brightly in 2025. But as you say, Nigel, that team is packed with talent. Tate Ziske, Fraser Bowes, to name but two riders. Antti Vulas is... I think he's got something, and something about him as well. But Vinnie Ford is a bit of a controversial young rider, but very, very
just
capable.
What's needed. What's needed.
Yeah.
What's needed.
So listen, good luck to the Comets for the rest of the season. Try not to stop Glasgow getting to the playoffs this year, please, Comets. But hope better fortunes and better results are literally around the corner. And Comets fans, let us know that you're out there and taking up the offering from 360 Speedway. All right, back on with some more comments submitted to 360 HQ this week. We just had a message from Graham in Workington, who was bemoaning the fortunes of his Comets at the hands of Scunthorpe. Now we've got a contrary review from Eddie H from Boston in Lincolnshire. And Eddie writes, the Scorpions absolutely blew Worky away on Friday night. The best performance in several seasons, says Eddie. Kennedy boys are solid, and Connor Mountain has a big future, in my humble opinion, of Eddie H from Boston. Yep, morale boosting, I would suggest. Home victory and the performance behind that, Eddie, for the Scorpions on Friday night. Workington are a talented side, there's no doubt about it. But they were, as you say, blown away by the Scorpions. And I know the Scorpions launched their league campaign this week, I think away to Poole on Wednesday night, if I'm not mistaken. And good luck to those lads. And Eddie, a wink to you, a special wink to you. Keep your eyes on some forthcoming news here on 360 Speedway. That's all I'll say. Next up, a comment courtesy of YouTube. So Paul Sowney, I think is how you pronounce it. Paul has sent a few messages. Paul's enjoying the 360 Speedway outputs. He's working his way through what's now a bit of a library on YouTube, created over the last 4 weeks. So Paul writes, Paul, I used to love watching Lee Adams and Jimmy Nielsen, two great names from the past, the not so distant past, both very stylish. Jimmy McMillan always turned up at Hackney, and great track craft, especially when he was riding for Hull. So 3 classy riders that you picked out, Paul. Thanks for the memories. Lee Adams, Jimmy Nielsen, both on that GP stage, of course, for many seasons. 2 of the best riders never to have been crowned world champion, I would suggest. And Jimmy Mack, well, I know a lot about Jimmy Mack, being a Glasgow lad, and didn't see Jimmy in his pomp. Seen him toward the end of his career, but even at that stage, at that veteran stage, 40 plus years of age, he was a very accomplished, very classy rider. Jimmy Mack, if you're watching, I hope you're keeping well, young man. Thanks for the message, Paul. In fact, thanks for your several messages on YouTube. Thank you. Another YouTube-sourced message from Jamie Glasheen, 8910. I don't know what the 8910 refers to. Maybe I could work it out. Jamie Glasheen, I happen to know. He is a Glasgow supporter. Good evening to you, Jamie, Sophie and Jana. Streaming has been a fantastic addition. There's no way I would drive 18-hour round trip to watch the Tigers at Plymouth, but will happily pay to watch it on BSN. So Jamie, yeah, very sensible way to outlook on the live streaming available now to the Speedway fan, and that was a comment, I think, in response to our recent chat last week around some of the great innovations in Speedway. We touched on the live stream introduction to Speedway. So BSN doing a fabulous job out there to keep Speedway fans across their team's performance, home and away. Thanks for taking time to send a message, Jamie. Another short message, but nonetheless very welcome. Another one courtesy of YouTube. Greg Branson, 4620. Enjoying the show from Melbourne, guys. So Greg Branson, I've never met Greg Branson. I've corresponded with him a few times via Facebook. Greg is an Australian-based, Melbourne-based Speedway fan who has adopted Glasgow Tigers a little bit randomly, but nonetheless much appreciated. And Greg, hope you and family are keeping well. Thank you very much for picking up and enjoying the 360 Speedway output in sunny Melbourne. And finally, for this week, another short message, but nonetheless very welcome. Colin Smith from Liverpool. Good evening to you, Colin. Bomber was the best I've seen him at Bellevue last night, flying. Short and sweet message, Colin, but with reference, of course, to that amazing British final on Monday night. We're going to show it. If you haven't seen it already, we're going to show it as one of the segments within episode 5. Bomber, I would imagine, was a bit disappointed not to have made the rostrum on Monday night for all his efforts, but by crikey did he contribute to the entertainment the whole night long and to that magnificent final. And just like Bomber winning Cardiff has been played millions of times over the years, I'm quite sure that British final on Monday night will match it, will rival it for the number of plays. Colin Smith, thank you very much for taking interest in all that we're doing on 360 Speedway. We appreciate all of your comments.